Anashangaa mwalimu anafanyaje hii kazi, na lakini kama umekosa sasa utafanya namna gani?
Nafanya kazi siku mzima lakini napata shilingi 300 peke yake.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai.
Good evening. The cabinet may be on leave, but we are not. And that's why we're dedicating this to our team coverage on the cabinet scorecard. And that starts right now. David Agondoa is our sign language interpreter. And we start with a look at the changing face and faces of the cabinet. Now, some may be more familiar than others, as we hope to show you in a bit. As provided for in the Constitution, the structure should not change and is comprised of the President, the Deputy President, the Attorney General, and not fewer than 14 and not more than 22 Cabinet Secretaries. A Cabinet Secretary shall not be a member of Parliament or get involved in the politics of the day. A CS is also expected to stand and pass the integrity test right from the vetting, appointment, and execution of the tasks in their docket. And these are just some of the faces that have been in the cabinet, and it also is meant to reflect and meet the constitutional requirement of gender-based balance. That's according to the Constitution, but may vary with reality, as you are about to see. Many have come and gone with the several shifts and shuffles, and yet another change may just be in the offing. Be that as it may, changing the faces may be an exercise in futility if it only treats the symptoms and not the disease. Now let's shoot straight and go for the jugular, the elephant that is too humongous to fit in the room, not even in the State House boardroom. Corruption in cabinet. Olive, go ahead and open the drawers in President Kenyatta's cabinet. What is the first test we are looking at on our scorecard?
Well, Mark, you're right. Well, I dug out some files and found them quite telling. In fact, I've dusted them off for your perusal. Take a look.
When President Uhuru Kenyatta stood before Parliament to deliver his State of the Nation address on March the 26th, 2015, he meant to communicate, he meant business in the war on graft. He tables an Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission report on national and county government officials under investigation. It was at this House sitting that the same man who ran for political office while facing crimes against humanity charges before the International Criminal Court called upon those suspected of graft to step aside.
Whether you are a cabinet secretary, principal secretary, or chief executive of a state institution, to immediately step aside pending conclusion.
The pronouncement saw then Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu, Energy CS Davis Churchill, Agriculture CS Felix Koskei, and Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi suspended. A mere 3 months later, when the wearer of the shoe was Anne Mumbi Waiguru, his then devolution CS, he was singing a different tune, characterizing calls for her resignation as a political ploy by then opposition leader Raila Odinga. But his deputy was having none of it.
Kiingereza mingi mnafanyia catwalk hapa around, na ni wazi pesa ya umma imepotea. Mwenye hiyo pesa anasema aliweka kwa gunia. Sasa jameni, kweli dunia hii.
After putting up a fight for 4 months, Waiguru grudgingly left office, begging the appointing authority, the president, for lighter duties. Months later, the whistle was blown on the now infamous Mafia House scam, in which even President Kenyatta's relations were adversely mentioned. The CS in charge at the time was Cleopa Mailu, who inherited the health ministry from James Macharia, with Nicholas Muraguri having served as the accounting officer during both their tenures. While Mailu is now serving as an envoy, Macharia now oversees 5 state departments and the hundreds of billions attached to President Kenyatta's mega projects. Meanwhile, Muraguri was moved to the lands ministry, where he's kept a low profile. Wangi Njuri, who was widely viewed as a Ruto man when the Jubilee House began showing cracks, wasn't so lucky. It had emerged that in 2018, as 5,000 maize farmers waited months for payments from NCPB, the middlemen whose imports filled its granaries were paid 1.9 billion in record time. And true to the president's word, the reggae stopped for Kunjuri.
I promise you and I swear before God, you try that again and you'll see what is going to happen to you.
Former Sports Cabinet Secretary Hassan Wario was later called to answer for the Rio Olympic scam in which millions were squandered by officials high on life at the expense of Kenyan athletes who flew the Kenyan flag high. Rashid Echesa, who succeeded Wario at the Sports Ministry, did not fare much better, and he too found himself on the wrong side of the dock after he left office over fraud. But not before Finance Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich was charged over the billions in taxpayer money sunk into the Aror and Kimwarer Dam projects, despite the Deputy President William Ruto having come to his defense, as did the then Majority Leader in Senate Kipchumba Murkomen. In his handling of corruption allegations touching on his cabinet, has President Uhuru Kenyatta demonstrated a bias?
There has been issues of corruption which up to now have not been addressed. There was the Afia House 1, for example, where containers were supposed to have been bought for 10 million shillings, which at the time the price was 1 million. That issue is still pending. So that fuels the perception that there isn't really any war on corruption, but there could be war on individuals.
Well, that report calls into question what informs the president's decisions as far as the allegations that touch on his cabinet secretary with regard to graft. The next question is what informs his decisions when it comes time to reshuffle the cabinet? Seth, it's proving to be quite the game of cards, isn't it?
Yes, Olive, it is. And the changes in the deck do not appear to necessarily be based on performance. It appears that, for instance, though a spade may be what works for the job, the King of Hearts may appoint a diamond since he at that time prefers the finer things in life.
I, Margaret Kobia,
having been appointed a cabinet secretary,
do swear that I will at all times be faithful to the Republic of Kenya,
that I will obey, respect, and uphold this constitution
and all other laws of the Republic.
It's not how competent or how hard a cabinet secretary works, but how smart and loyal he or she is to the boss that matters in Kenya. Cabinet appointments, usually followed by reshuffles, are not based on performance, contracting, but political achievements as envisioned by the leader of the ruling party.
Yes.
Political commentator Alutalala Mukwana blames the trend on total lack of constitutionalism and patriotism.
Performance contracting is really a fallacy. The truth is that cabinet ministers are appraised by their bosses depending on the political goals they have scored for them. That is what you see around, and that is why, for example, you find some ministers engaging in actions which are clearly unconstitutional, clearly unlawful, but the bosses just pat them on their wrists.
Mheshimiwa Rais ndio CEO wa nchi yetu ya Kenya. Asimame vile vile aambie wa Kenya, mimi nimewaachisha Rashid kazi ya waziri kwa sababu ya hii.
The dropping from cabinet of former CSs Richard Echesa, Mwangi Kunjuri and Henry Rotich are viewed by critics as political other than being based on performance.
This is all politics. This matter was there in 2016, even when I was being vetted.
Firing of cabinet secretaries or senior civil servants is based on loyalty.
Although ordinarily there ought to be benchmarks, I do not think that these benchmarks matter at all under the Jubilee government. And the reason is that the considerations for which these CSs are appointed are not purely performance in the context of the public, you and I. It is performance in the context of those who have placed them there. The most recent example, which I want you to follow as a media house, the current theft, it's alleged, the current theft at KEMSA.
A cabinet reshuffle in itself is a game of cards, extensively used by sitting presidents to form new alliances. The now late former President Daniel Moi reshuffled cabinet in order to appoint NDP's Raila Odinga as energy minister in 2001 as a strategy for having the ruling party retain power in the 2002 elections. President Kenyatta has been consulting with key political players in the country such as Raila Odinga, KANU's Gideon Moi and Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka as part of consensus building that could see them nominate their allies to government. While the stepping aside of many cabinet secretaries in the country largely appears to have been necessitated by underperformance that's attributed mainly to corruption, the same senior government officers end up being moved to other positions.
The tragedy in this government that we have today is that the Constitution is a piece of paper, and therefore the requirements of the values of leadership under Chapter 6 are for the birds.
The issue of tribe and regional balance also appears to play a role in determining who sits in cabinet and who exits, even when the president is under pressure from the public to fire non-performing or corrupt cabinet secretaries, as was the case during the much-publicized Itare, Aror and Kimwarer dam scandals. He at times finds himself with tough choices to make.
And because this government is a coalition of tribes, it makes it very difficult for the head of state to touch the other member of the other tribe. If it were a government that was based on truly national principles, where the Constitution dictates that none should be marginalized by virtue of the minority, color, skin, or creed, and if the head of state and his government abided by the law of the Constitution to the letter, it would be very easy for that head of state to dispense with the non-performing CS.
State House insiders say President Uhuru Kenyatta has in the past asked his ministers to proceed on leave whenever he wants to effect cabinet changes. While the cards were being dealt, some played theirs right and survived. Kevin, our report card is still on. The survival exam has been a tough one.
Yes, Seth, in some cases it has been a demanding endeavor where many were chosen, but few have remained in the exam room. Out of the 21 cabinet secretaries in office today, only 7 have been in office since the first term of the Jubilee administration. They include Najib Balala, the CS for Tourism, Fred Matiang'i, currently heading the Interior and Coordination of National Government docket, Amina Mohammed, who is the CS for Sports, Culture and Heritage. Rachel Omamo is the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs. Aden Mohammed, the Ministry of East African Community and Regional Development. Eugene Wamalwa is in charge of the Devolution Docket, and Charles Keter, the CS Energy. According to political pundits, their jobs have been secure because of their performance and loyalty to the president.
They are able to separate between their roles as cabinet secretaries and as individuals. So that makes them to stay long in government. Others that have left are basically because of inexperience in the way that government is supposed to operate. Some of them have been considered as not showing loyalty to the government.
They have survived the axe, only to be moved to different ministries during cabinet reshuffles. Amina Mohammed, for instance, has served in the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Education, and now the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage. Experts are of the opinion that she is one of the CSs who have earned the trust of the executive because of her skills in diplomacy.
When you see a cabinet secretary moved from one office to another, it means that they have proved that they can perform. They have proved that they are loyal, and they have proved that they have the ability to deliver. But we cannot as well rule out the fact that they could have built some very good networks in high government places. You also serve at the behest of the politicians. So if you have very good political connections, most likely you can survive in some difficult situations.
Amid speculation that President Uhuru Kenyatta is preparing to make radical changes in his government, there is every indication that only those whose loyalty has passed the test of time will survive.
But where sometimes there are differences between the top leaders and you align yourself with one of them, then most likely your performance will be hindered. And most likely the appointing authority in a situation where they find that you are not aligned to their thinking, then you can easily be removed from the position.
The changes and motions, there have been some great exchanges and emotions. Vincent, sometimes the tests are of patience and ego, right?
Kevin, the power struggles and the battles therein have even played out in the public space. And the president complicated the situation with his appointment of Fred Matiang'i to chair a cabinet committee which bolted him to be a super minister and apparently sidelining the deputy president. This is a taste of metal. President Uhuru Kenyatta has moved to elevate Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i to supervise all national government development projects, made Matiang'i superior to all his cabinet colleagues. The new structure required Matiang'i to report to the president directly. Before the changes, Ruto had been busy attending countrywide weekend rallies termed as development tours. Matiang'i's new powers isolated Ruto in the running of government projects. In the latest government reorganization, the Interior Ministry was put under the Executive Office of the President, seemingly making it the operational engine of government. These seemed to have isolated Ruto even further from the running of government affairs. Since then, Ruto allies have accused Matiang'i of demeaning the office of the Deputy President.
Na mheshimiwa rais wetu ametupea kazi tufanye. Kama inchi inatawaliwa na inalindwa kama boma inalindwa. Boma ina mtu wa kuongoza mmoja. Kuna mtu hapa ako na familia ambayo inaongozwa na wazee wawili? Hapana.
Kila mtu ambaye umepatiwa kazi na Uhuru Kenyatta na serikali ya Jubilee, wacha kupiga kifua, wacha kiburi, wacha madharau.
Matiang'i has become President Kenyatta's Mr. Fix-It, as Ruto seems to have been isolated from the government, despite constitutionally being the second in command. This acrimony has caused division and suspicion in the cabinet, to the point that a section of cabinet secretaries was once accused of planning to assassinate Ruto.
They must stop the nonsense they are engaged in of making telephone calls to people, to leaders, blackmailing people left, right, and center. If they are men enough, let them come forward and face me.
Sisi tunafanyia Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta kazi, ndio rais wetu.
The elevation of Matiang'i has made his office so powerful that Ruto allies have accused him, together with his principal secretary Karanja Kibicho, of working to scuttle Ruto's 2022 presidential bid. The new structure seems to have left Ruto with no role to play in cabinet, since cabinet secretaries are required to report to Matiang'i as the chairman of the cabinet subcommittee on national development, implementation and communication. During Jubilee administration's first term, Ruto had a say in the formation of the cabinet. That has since changed, with this role now played solely by the president. Of late, the DP has been reduced to spending much of his time at his official Nairobi current residence, meeting delegations within the framework of his own agenda. These are some of the power punches by the power people, but we also have the power dockets which the men in power have held. These easily divide the theory and practical papers, as Alex Mwangi tells us.
Yes, Vincent. In government, Treasury, Agriculture and Trade are key portfolios, and as such, appointees to oversee them are usually close confidants of the president, whose loyalty ideally is not questionable. Here's a look at some of the people who have handled those portfolios in recent years. Both President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto, have handled critical ministerial dockets in the country prior to their ascension to the top. President Kenyatta was the Minister for Finance in former President Mwai Kibaki's government, serving from 2009 to 2012. Kibaki himself served as Finance Minister between 1969 and 1981. The finance portfolio is the one that executes the division of the national cake, including the receipt and disbursement of donor funds. It is arguably the most sensitive ministry for any incumbent regime. When Uhuru Kenyatta became the finance minister in 2009, the proportion of the country's public debt in relation to the GDP was below 50%. As at June this year, that stood at 65.7%. In monetary terms, Kenya has more than doubled the public debt it had in 2009. Deputy President William Ruto served in the agriculture docket between 2008 and 2010. Often described as the backbone of Kenya's economy, agriculture is a critical provider of jobs, besides playing a crucial role, quite literally, in contributing to the health of the nation. In President Uhuru Kenyatta's government, two men have so far been in charge of the finance docket: Henry Rotich and the current office holder, Ukur Yatani. Rotich was ejected from office on allegations of corruption. Yatani now oversees an annual budget expenditure just shy of the 3 trillion shilling mark. The agriculture docket has had 4 ministers since 2013. Felix Koskei, who served between 2013 and 2014 when he stepped aside on allegations of graft, Willie Bett, who served from 2014 to 2017, Mwangi Kionjori, who served from 2017 to last year, and the current holder of the vast portfolio, Peter Munya. The Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development has had 3 people in charge since Uhuru Kenyatta became president: Aidan Mohamed, who had a lengthy stint from 2013 to 2018; Peter Munya, who was in charge until early this year when Betty Maina took over. Besides overseeing the country's corporate and SME landscape, the person in charge of the trade portfolio is also involved in talks with bilateral partners involving billions of shillings in loans or grants, usually targeted at expanding or cushioning the SME sector. These dockets have also been identified as key portfolios in the president's Big Four agenda. Anita, you looked at this and the journey so far.
Alex, many have cast aspersions on the practicality of what is one of the president's biggest tests, the Big Four agenda. Some have even called it the Big False agenda. But here's what the journey so far has been and what it looks like going forward.
It has now been 3 years since the launch of the 4 pillars aimed at enhancing the quality of Kenyan lives, and part of what the president hopes would be his legacy. Those 4 pillars are manufacturing, food security, affordable housing, and universal healthcare. 3 years on, and less than 2 years left to deliver his promise, some experts say that the journey to implement the Big Four has been anything but smooth.
He had problems getting it implemented for 2 reasons. One, within the bureaucracy, the government bureaucracy. So sometimes they're getting there to convince the permanent government to accept the Big Four. The other obstacle, and a bigger one for that matter, was the political obstacle arising from the person he defeated in 2017. This was the ODM candidate, Raila Odinga. He made it difficult for Uhuru to govern and to implement his Agenda 4. That, in my view, was the environment that forced Uhuru to seek out Raila Odinga. That cooperation between the two enabled the president to implement some strategies in the Big Four.
But even with the handshake done, there was and still continues to be another very prevalent problem hindering the president's Big Four agenda.
One of the major weaknesses with the Big Four in terms of implementation is the universal disease called corruption. And Kenya has its share.
With the countdown on to deliver, most of these pillars were pegged on the assumption that the economy would be doing relatively okay. However, with the unprecedented blow that has been COVID-19, one has to wonder just how far back it has set the agenda and what can be done to remedy or at least cushion the devastating effects. In a bid to fulfill the promises on time, maybe a change of personnel is needed, and sending cabinet secretaries on leave is the beginning of the president's quest to remedy the situation.
In the next 1 and at best 1.5 years, he needs to get performance. But assuming that the people he put there, the new people, are all performance, then we expect to see differences.
Quite some work cut out for the president, his deputy, and the cabinet secretaries before their time in the exam room is up. Mark?
And with the talk about reshuffle, Anita, thank you for that. With the talk about the reshuffle, their time up is not known. We'll wait and see. But team coverage continues after this break. We're looking at the gender balance question with Oko Kusa as well as Charity Mwangi. Stay with us.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Good.
Kenya is witnessing increased positive cases of coronavirus. The Ministry of Health is advising the public to embrace home-based isolation and care of all patients without underlying conditions and those with mild or no symptoms. According to the home-based isolation and care guidelines, asymptomatic patients need at least 10 days to end their isolation from the date they had their first COVID test. They must not have developed symptoms since their positive test. Symptomatic patients should end their isolation when they have had no fever for at least 72 hours. By then, all other symptoms should have improved and at least 10 days have passed since their symptoms first appeared. If the patient's situation worsens, call 719 for an ambulance. For further information on the guidelines, check the Ministry of Health website www.health.go.ke. Komesha Corona, okoa maisha.
The underlying thing that ties it together is hip hop.
I wasn't expecting to be accepted the way that I've been accepted.
Look at
Amani Ridge, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete, the stone perimeter wall is complete, and the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Welcome back to NTV Tonight and team coverage. Our focus is on the cabinet under the Jubilee government. And of course, following the history of this, it has been, or the ministers have been referred to as ministers over time, but that changed to cabinet secretary. And that begs the question, what's in a name? Oko Kusa?
Mark, the constitution or new syllabus brought with it not only a change in name for the ministry bosses, but also in the composition and qualifications of the individuals who make up the cabinet.
Whether they are cabinet secretaries, whether they are cabinet ministers, the point is, are we able to give our people what they need?
I don't know. I'm not degrading the cabinet secretary, but I feel ministers, I mean, the name wields more power than just a cabinet secretary.
I think it's more of perception than reality. But in politics, perception counts more than reality. So there's that perception that goes with, I am a cabinet minister.
There is something in the name. When I say cabinet minister, cabinet secretary, CC member, there's something attached to it.
A quick search on Google reveals that a minister is a politician who heads a ministry, making and implementing decisions on policies in conjunction with the other ministers. Still on Google, the term secretary has been vilified and degraded over the years, giving it a bad taste. But even as the debate on whether it should be cabinet minister or cabinet secretary rages on, one thing that unites the competing voices is service delivery.
Even if we maintain the ministers, what we have been used to, and the underlying thing is, are we able to give the services?
According to Chapter 9, Article 152, Clause 2 of the Constitution of Kenya, the President shall nominate and with approval of the National Assembly appoint cabinet secretaries. When President Uhuru Kenyatta took over office in 2013, he introduced a paradigm shift in cabinet appointments, opting for technocrats outside the National Assembly to head the ministries. This, of course, was in line with Article 152, Clause 3 of the Constitution, which states that a cabinet secretary shall not be a member of parliament.
But remember, even the members of parliament themselves were not cut from trees. They came from somewhere. They have some background. So whoever is being picked to head a particular department must be having a background of that particular department where they are going to head. Otherwise, we'll be doing nothing.
Right from the first cabinet, you'd remember that Uhuru appointed Charity Ngilu and Balala. And he added some rejoinder that they have agreed that those people will relinquish their political positions so that they remain purely technocrats to serve in his cabinet. But that was never the case because Ngilu forever remained the chairperson of NAC party. So we are implementing a constitution that is parliamentary in spirit, but in actual sense we are implementing it in a presidential scenario. And that's why we end up with quite a number of challenges like the quagmire we are in right now in the Senate.
Among the proposals by the Building Bridges initiative is that cabinet secretaries be picked from parliament just like it was before the new constitution. Now, with these changes in the way the country's cabinet is composed, there are some legal expectations to the gender balance. My colleague Charity Mwangi helps us get a picture of the gender agenda test.
It has been said that where women are in charge, things are smooth and actual work gets done. Let's take a look at how President Uhuru Kenyatta has fared in the two-third gender rule. In 2013, a united, enthusiastic Uhuruto presidency was in lockstep as the two partners unveiled their cabinet, an 18-member team with 6 out of the 18 being women. The 6 were long-serving politician Charity Ngilu, who served in the Lands Ministry, Rachel Omamo for the Defense Ministry, Anne Waiguru, Devolution and Planning, Phyllis Kandie served in the East African Community Affairs, Commerce and Tourism Ministry, Judy Wahongo, Environment, Water and Natural Resources Ministry, with Amina Mohammed steering the Foreign Affairs docket. Corruption allegations threw a spanner in the works in 2015, knocking out 4 cabinet secretaries, among them 2 women. Charity Ngilu was replaced by Fred Matiang'i in the Lands Ministry, with Mwangi Kiunjuri replacing Anne Waiguru in the Ministry of Devolution and Planning. A newly created Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs helped reduce the loss for the women folk as Cecily Kariuki, previously Principal Secretary of Agriculture, assumed the office. In 2018, a reshuffle saw yet another female cabinet secretary exit. Judy Wahongo was named Kenya's envoy to France. It was a bittersweet development as two women entered the cabinet, namely Monica Juma, who was named Foreign Affairs CS, and Farida Karunei, who took charge of the Ministry of Lands. New ministries were introduced, bringing the total number to 21. Even with 6 cabinet secretaries being female in a cabinet of 21, the 2/3 gender rule requirement was not met. Early this year, yet another reshuffle resulted in the entrance of Betty Minor as the CS Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, bringing the number of female cabinet secretaries to 7 out of 21. At this point, the 2/3 gender rule requirement has been met, but it is not just the numbers, but the influence of the offices they occupy that is also in question. And that is the picture of the hits and misses on the gender balance at the highest table in the land. Mark?
Thank you, Charity. The verdict is out there. How the CSs use their time off is entirely up to them. But upon resumption, the same challenges affecting Kenyans are still there. And the biggest one is the coronavirus pandemic, which has forced the world into a new normal. How normal business will be, let's watch and see. And as we head to another break, ponder on this. Is a failed cabinet a reflection of the presidency? And to something else on whether the particular happenings at the Senate is a reflection again of the leadership. Here's something you can expect tomorrow. Deputy President William Ruto and his campaign advisors are racking their brains on who to pick as his running mate. In your Daily Nation tomorrow, find out why the task of filling the vacancy is proving difficult. Plus, why Kenya is losing the battle against COVID-19 as it gets closer to the peak. In our series on the war against Al-Shabaab, our frontline journalists take you to the Kwale hamlet where the dreaded terror squad commanders grew up. Don't miss your copy. And there has been a statement that has come out just after the meeting, the closed-door meeting, where the media was actually not allowed. They were barred from the meeting where the Interior Cabinet Secretary and the Inspector General of Police were summoned by Senate to explain the arrest of 3 senators recently. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has called on the Deputy President William Ruto to resign and join the opposition. This is among the issues he raised when he appeared before the Senate Committee on Security. This was in response to the DP's criticism of the arrests of 3 senators. A CS says that the arrest had nothing to do with their planned contribution to the motion, that is the revenue sharing formula. And as Jane Ngweri reports, the media was barred from covering the proceedings, and this amounted to an illegality.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i drove himself to Parliament following summons alongside the Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai and DCI Director George Kinoti over the recent arrests of senators. But the Senate Security Committee, led by Garissa Senator Yusuf Haji, ejected journalists from covering the grilling session. Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen raised what he described as the illegality in this move. The law, however, does not allow a committee chairperson to exclude the public or media from a sitting. This is only allowable when a speaker has given the green light after determining justifiable reasons for the exclusion. The arrests of Senators Steve Lilengwe from Samburu, Bomes Christopher Lagat, and Kakamega's Cleophas Malala on Monday, when they were set to take part in a crucial county's revenue vote, sparked fury across the country. And this was the basis of the summons to the security chiefs. A source who attended the meeting told NTV that unlike what some expected, the session was a cordial one.
If you can comment about the
The CS and security officials alleged that the three legislators were required to record statements and that it had nothing to do with the vote in the Senate. This explanation appears to contradict the assertions of Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who were vocal in their condemnation, terming the drama as an affront to the Constitution, sentiments echoed by Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka.
Should not have happened that way, especially just when on the eve of a crucial vote, then that creates a bit of suspicion. But let's wait and see what will come out through this committee.
Jane Nguiri, NTV.
And I did talk to the Senate Speaker, Ken Lusaka. He answers various issues on the drama around the revenue sharing formula, the wheelbarrow scam under his leadership as Bungoma governor way back in the day, as well as if he is a lame duck senator. Many have said so. You'll hear what he has to say on that tomorrow at 9 o'clock on the big interview. Next up is a business news with Dan Mwangi after this break.
You have worked so hard. Now your project is nearing completion. You now need to crown your labor. For over 50 years, East African Cables has been a premier manufacturer of high-quality electrical cables, manufactured to international standards for the region, giving you the reliability and safety you deserve. We manufacture an extensive range of power cables for applications in domestic and industrial wiring. Our work speaks for itself. Get in touch. Let's talk cables. Kumbuka, wire see wire. East African Cables, connecting lives.
Here we are, living in the moment, and here we are, dreaming in the open. Now look around, isn't this a new day? Make a move, doing things a new way, a new way. 'Cause this is our world, and this is our time. These are our plans, we're gonna let them shine. This is our place in the human race, and we won't stop dreaming. No, we won't stop dreaming.
The future of our nation relies on your dreams and our steel. Tononoka Group, at the core of every construction.
Ah, Helen Paul.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I've been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains removal. Harpic's thick formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach.
Wow, now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
In our daily fast-paced life, pain always slows us down. And to fight pain effectively and quick, act fast with Parafast tablets. Parafast contains paracetamol, which relieves pain and fever. Put a tablet of Parafast in a half-full glass of water, let it dissolve and drink the solution. Parafast has a pleasant orange flavor. Parafast gives you quick relief from headache, fever, menstrual pain, muscle pains, and backaches. Act fast with Parafast tablets. Available in all leading chemists. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Mambo mengine sio rahisi, lakini kupata 50% extra airtime ya kukonda kwa SMS ya Safaricom, mambo ni 1-3. Pata 50% extra credo bila expiry ya kupiga na ku-SMS across networks. Piga star 444 star scratch card pin hash, na kama ni M-Pesa star 444 star 2 hash. Safaricom for you.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. Dan Mwangi is my name, and we have our own cabinet of stories to give to you. With time on President Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure fast running out, the government has taken on an urgent tone in having legacy projects completed. The latest one is the rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway line from Nakuru to Kisumu, which is critical in fulfilling the intended purpose of the standard gauge railway. Ruth Sarmwe reports.
The refurbishment of the meter gauge railway from Nakuru to Kisumu is what can be termed as a backup plan after the quest to extend the standard gauge railway from Naivasha to Malaba came a cropper. The government could not secure the financing requirements to put up a new track through the Rift Valley, a venture which would have gobbled hundreds of billions of shillings. The Nakuru to Kisumu line that has been dormant for over 25 years is expected to further revamp the economy of the western region, besides being a getaway to Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
That port will remain a white elephant unless this railway is done. This railway will carry the cargo that's going to the port. So I cannot overemphasize the importance.
This railway line from Nakuru to Kisumu is expected to be complete in 8 months and will cost 3.8 billion shillings. Opponents of the standard gauge railway have been stating that the project is not cost effective. Some suggested it was better to have revamped the meter gauge railway line from Mombasa to Kisumu instead. The cost of the rehabilitation of this line seems to confirm their point, as it pales the comparison to the huge investment that was devoted to the standard gauge railway, for which Kenyans will repay to the Chinese loan for years to come. Those encroaching on the way leave off section of the 217-kilometer line, who have been doing so on lease, have been given a notice to vacate.
Part of those leases was, if the land is needed for rail transport, it shall be surrendered to KR within 90 days. So we are legally on course, and we shall recover all the land which has been leased.
This project is supported by all kinds of hands. All kinds of hands.
Ruth Sarmwe, NTV, Nakuru.
The Kenya Union of Sugar Plantation and Allied Workers and the Lake Region Economic Bloc have signed an agreement that will see the union withdraw a case seeking to have the leasing of 5 state-owned sugar millers stopped. The union softens its stance when it was assured that its General Secretary, Francis Wangara, will be included in the interim management committee of the leasing of state-owned sugar companies, and that the first order of business will be settling salary arrears for employees. The leasing option came about after the quest to privatize them was shelved after years of half-hearted attempts.
We know very well that the government has pulled out financing this company, and therefore, for that reason, they have said they need to lease them out. That is the process we believe we cannot stop, but we fully agree that since we have been given attention and we are going to be part and parcel of this, after the gazetting of the Secretary General in that office, then we have no option but to withdraw the matter to court, because we will be sailing in the same boat.
The union has a valid case of salary arrears and statutory deductions thereon, and is required to be considered during the leasing process. And if there is any dispute thereafter, the national government will take over that dispute and deal with it.
I guess you can say someone is releasing something to the rest of the country to take over now. Listed and non-listed companies have been challenged to continue adhering to international best practice in financial reporting in spite of the challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking during the launch of the 2020 edition of the Financial Reporting Awards, now stakeholders including the Capital Markets Authority and the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya observed that the COVID-19 business environment has presented challenges as far as compliance among companies is concerned. The theme for the 2020 award is Financial Reporting in a Disruptive Environment, which seeks to promote compliance amongst corporates.
And this theme is an acknowledgement of the importance of maintaining financial reporting integrity and standards during this COVID-19 period. The outbreak of this virus has brought us new dynamics, which will require enhanced financial considerations, and these considerations will be addressed and evaluated in this upcoming award.
This time around, it comes at a time of unprecedented changes in how corporates operate in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we know this pandemic has disrupted business operations.
COVID-19. Now, public sector entities are arising out of the disruptive nature of COVID-19 are now required to be more innovative to carry on with service delivery, which is the subject matter of the financial reporting standards that the board prescribes.
As we move towards the new normal, with the theme of being able to provide financial reporting excellence in a disruptive environment, it will mean that the new normal is going to come in with new ways of doing business.
And that soundbite from the CEO of Eastpak is the end of our business news, and they're saying they hope that business is back to normal, but we're not yet there. I'm done. So is business. Good night.
Well, this is awkward. If only he had amazing data.
Come on, man!
Come on, man! Never miss out on great moments. Enjoy 3 GB plus free WhatsApp for 99 bob daily, or 300 MB plus free WhatsApp for 20 bob daily. Dial *544#. Come on, man! Airtel, the smartphone network.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
My name is Dr. Rose Ramkat, the Deputy Center Leader in the Africa Center of Excellence in Phytochemicals, Textiles and Renewable Energy, based at Moi University, found in Kenya. Our Center of Excellence is actually focusing on the manufacturing sector. Initially, we had only 3 programs running in the center. The center managed to now bring more programs on board, and this was through development of 3 new curriculums which have undergone accreditation by the Commission of University Education in Kenya.
From Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
It's just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies. You should also try Molfix.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga *544# kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro.
Si hapo Safaricom ni yako kabisa.
Welcome back. Questions have been raised on whether the COVID-19 curve is being flattened in Kenya. The Ministry of Health says the fewer numbers of positive patients confirmed recently is not an indication of things getting better. 379 patients have today tested positive out of a sample size of 3,867. This now brings the national count to over 31,000. Out of the 379 cases, 372 are Kenyans and 7 are foreigners. 223 are male and 156 are female. Nairobi County leads with 219 new infections, followed by Kiambu at 40. Uasin Gishu has recorded 28 new infections, Kajiado 14, Machakos 13, and Kisumu 10. 19 people have succumbed to the virus, bringing the total number of fatalities to 506. Helen Aura has more.
The COVID-19 outlook within the country has somewhat given Kenyans a sense of hope with a record of decreasing positive cases in the past 2 weeks. However, the Ministry of Health has cautioned Kenyans who are interpreting the recent decline in positive patients as a sign of the COVID-19 curve flattening.
We are well aware that our curve has not yet flattened. Yes, there are challenges when it comes to, the daily tests that we're doing. We are experiencing, as we've mentioned, disruptions in terms of reagents, being able to get those supply chains sorted. But this is something that we are managing.
The Ministry of Health will tomorrow issue a clear picture of the curve trajectory so far.
One of the research components the ministry has highlighted is characterization of the pandemic.
Part of the research being conducted attempts to give a clear picture of how the virus is manifesting among different age groups and among different people depending on their health status. Following the ongoing research, the ministry says that the youth are among those being infected and those with underlying conditions such as diabetes and hypertension, leading in fatalities.
And the interesting phenomenon that is happening right now is that COVID-19 is being seen to sort of stimulate a form of high blood sugar. So that means you could be young, you could be okay, but perhaps this disease, being a multisystemic disease, can actually have effects on other organs within your body.
With healthcare workers being on the front line helping combat COVID-19, many now feel they have been shortchanged as they threaten to down their tools demanding their wages from the government.
These workers cannot be intimidated. They cannot be cajoled. They cannot be pushed over. The best thing that the county government could do is to pay us our salaries and all that is due to us. It is unfortunate that all these workers you see here do not even have NHIF cover.
The ICU they are talking about is a scarecrow. The blood bank they are talking about is a scarecrow. The oxygen plant is just there in words.
That they continue to engage the union in terms of trying to address the issues that were raised. I've also seen communication, particularly on the issue that deals with medical insurance. The discussions are underway, budgets have been availed, and this issue will be dealt with. A cover will be provided under NHIF for the healthcare workers.
Healthcare workers in Homa Bay County entered their 16th day of their strike, claiming lack of PPE kits and general poor working conditions. Helen Aura, NTV.
It's not just the health workers who have something to complain about and have been affected. Teachers who serve in the community-based schools are arguably among those hardest hit economically by the COVID-19 restrictions. NTV encountered 3 teachers in Mathare slum who have had to pursue alternative sources of livelihood. This is the grim picture of the life during a pandemic that has not only ended lives, but livelihoods.
Lynette Lugadiru may pass as any other greengrocer. However, this is a new venture after her mainstay was dealt a death blow. An anticipated tackle by an invincible enemy, the coronavirus.
Watu wengi unajua wanashangaa mwalimu anafanyaje hii kazi na lakini kama umekosa sasa utafanya namna gani?
Just next to her kibanda, she also tries to showcase her other skill, hand-woven mats. No one is buying decorative household items, and so she focuses on her more profitable wares. Once a teacher, always a teacher, it seems. As she is surrounded by children at her current place of work, trying to impart her mat weaving knowledge.
Watoto wanajifunza, wanaenda kwao, wanafunza wamama kushona. So at least imegeuza community, lakini uzi, hata mzazi kununua uzi ni shida. Kununua crochet ya shilingi 40 ni shida.
Rose Numayo, yet another teacher, has also had to get innovative. Her new venture is pastry making. She says that COVID-19 forced her to leave the classroom and enter the kitchen in order to feed her family.
Hakuna vile ningepata msaada kutoka kwa mwajiri wangu kwa sababu tulikuwa tunategemea wazazi.
She diligently attends to her customers who are few and far in between.
Inabaki nimerudi na zile mandazi kwa nyumba ama zingine naanza kugawia wale watoto ambao wako pale karibu.
While it's tough for the female teacher, for their male counterparts, it is a sweaty affair in a job that requires a different kind of effort. John Anangaza works in construction. He tells us that though his new job brings him limited income, it is the only option currently at his disposal.
Hebu fikiria nafanya kazi siku mzima lakini napata shilingi 300 peke yake. Alafu hapo chini kuna mama githeri ambaye nakula githeri ya lunch. Manake nipate nguvu ya kuendelea na kazi. Nikifika nyumbani nina shilingi 200 tu.
The three teachers admit that though the restrictions by the Ministry of Health were necessary, the government could have done a better job of cushioning them from the tough repercussions.
Hii kazi kulisha familia ni kazi ngumu.
Kufikia wakati huu sina side hustle nyingine. Yangu ilikuwa ni mjengo, maana hata ile side hustle inahitaji ile hela. Na ile hela kidogo ambayo nilikuwa nimevinya imebidi nilipe nyumba ili nisifukuzwe ndani.
Grants tunahitaji kwa sababu pale nyuma tumekuwa tukisaidiwa na zile pesa za free primary kwa shule.
Until the anticipated school's reopening date, these three teachers and many others in similar circumstances have no choice but to learn and deal with the hard lessons brought about by the COVID-19 testing times. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Tough times. It's now time for sport, and Ida Oringa is on that agenda. Stay with us.
The Africa Center of Excellence in Phytochemicals, Textile and Renewable Energy, based at Moi University, Kenya, focuses on the manufacturing sector. Its main objective is to train highly skilled manpower in phytochemicals, textile, industrial and renewable energy through research, innovation and technology transfer for enhancement of the manufacturing sector. As a regional center, PTRE Missions focuses on providing highly trained, skilled and empowered human capacity with the potential to develop innovative products of high value and quality, offer services and solutions for the manufacturing sector. The Africa Center of Excellence in Phytochemicals, Textile and Renewable Energy.
Get free access to digital learning today. For primary and secondary students, one can now access learning and revision materials that has been approved by KICD. Dial *291# and subscribe to Safaricom Digital Learning and Shupavu 291 today. Tufungue njia, elimu iendelee.
We admit both self and government-sponsored students for our degree, diploma and certificate programs that are accredited by the Commission for University Education. Do not be left behind. For details on our online learning programs, log on to www.ztech.ac.ke and apply today for the September intake. ZTech University. Invent your future.
When deciding where to buy land for a home, consider your preferred neighborhood, security, social amenities, infrastructural master plan for the larger area, as well as your retirement years.
There are 4 approved architectural house concepts, styled to accommodate your ideal dream home. Indulge your senses and relive your childhood desires, where you can be free, be bold, and be at home.
Ndovu flowers are fortified with vitamins and minerals to provide wholesome goodness for the whole family. Ndovu all-purpose flour makes the most delicious chapatis, mandazis and all other pastries. Ndovu is readily available at your nearest shop. Ndovu Tosha.
The underlying thing that ties it together is hip-hop.
I wasn't expecting to be accepted the way that I've been accepted.
Look at
Amani Ridge, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete, the stone perimeter wall is complete, and the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Education should not stop and time should not be lost. Enroll now. Class 8 students from 844 system will proceed to grade 9, ensuring there is no time lost and will complete their O-level within 2.5 years. Join us today. Call us or visit our website and Facebook for more information. Broadcast Virtual Learning. Continue with your academic dream.
When I was in prison, I thought a lot about you.
It's not acceptable!
Come on, man! Never miss out on great moments. Enjoy 3 GB plus free WhatsApp for 99 bob daily or 300 MB plus free WhatsApp for 20 bob daily. Dial star 544 hash.
Come on, man! Airtel, the smartphone network.
NTV Sport in association with DSTV.
And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final. Get connected to DSTV to experience every heart-stopping moment.
A very good evening to you. That Champions League coming up over the weekend, but let's focus on matters today. And the Confederation of African Football has confirmed that the national football team, Harambee Stars, will face Comoros in the 2021 AFCON qualifiers on November 9th and 17th for the home and away matches, respectively. Match days 5 and 6 against Egypt at home and Togo away have been slated for between March 22nd and March 30th, 2021. The AFCON qualifiers were scheduled to kick off from March 25th through to 31st, but were postponed in March by CAF due to the COVID-19. Meanwhile, the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, where Kenya has been pitted against Mali, Uganda and Rwanda, will be played between May 2021 and November 2021. Quite a few dates there. Well, they say that real recognizes real, and that's exactly what Eliud Kipchoge has done, taking his time to congratulate fellow world record breaker Joshua Cheptegei from Uganda. Our Eldoret team caught up with Kipchoge and got his thoughts on recent happenings with global athletics events back.
If there is one thing Eliud Kipchoge does best is to make history. And while 1:59.40, the time it took Kipchoge to beat the 2-hour marathon mark, is special to his heart, the marathon world record holder uploaded the 12 minutes, that 5.37 seconds world record set by Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei in the men's 5,000 meters. The 23-year-old did this during last weekend's Monaco Diamond League.
Joshua is in good shape. It will actually dominate for the next even over 5 years or even to 10 years. 5,000, he has broken the world record for 5,000. I think 10,000 will follow. You know, he's capable of actually smashing all the records. And in future, I'm expecting him to come and actually run under 2 hours in marathon and even break 58 minutes in half marathon, which is good in sport.
Cheptegei broke Ethiopian Kenenisa Bekele's world record that had stood for almost 16 years. Ironically, Kipchoge and Bekele are the two fastest marathoners in the world and are expected to face off in October's London Marathon. All three athletes run under the same management. The Monaco leg of the Diamond League circuit also saw Helen Obiri, Timothy Cheruiyot and Faith Kipyegon fly Kenya's flag high, with victories in the men's 1,500 meters, women's 5,000 meters, and little-known 1,000 meters respectively.
I'm a happy man to see the results actually for Monaco, and it shows that people have been working. It shows that COVID can't stop anything. It can't stop sport. COVID cannot stop sport at all. That's a big sign, and that's my happiness. Yes.
Kipchoge was conducting a food donation exercise in partnership with Absa Banking Group to less privileged athletes in the North Rift.
I know I have experience as far as training is concerned, and I know how you feel when you go to training without anything in your stomach.
Not because we have anything special, but just because we are human, and we need to share with our brothers and sisters and our communities through like-minded institutions.
Fantastic. Moving on, and Ronald Koeman has been appointed Barcelona head coach on a 2-year deal. The 57-year-old replaces Quique Setien, who was sacked following Barca's humiliating 8-2 defeat to Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. The Dutchman played for the Catalan Giants between 1989 and 1995 and helped them to 4 league titles and the European Cup. Barcelona president Josep Maria Bartomeu, indicated a club overhaul was underway after relieving head coach Quique Setien of his duties. Immediate former sporting director Eric Abidal was also fired on Tuesday and replaced by his assistant Ramon Plané. Well, Paris Saint-Germain are through to their first Champions League final, courtesy of a deserved 3-0 victory over RB Leipzig. Marquinhos, Angel Di Maria and Juan Bernat found the net for the Parisians, with Di Maria arguably the highlight courtesy of his 2 assists on the night. PSG has been one of Europe's biggest spenders, but ironically also one of the continent's most high-profile underachievers, and the first-ever final will go some way in shedding the dismissal of the French top flight as a quote-unquote Farmers League. The Parisians will find out who they face in Sunday's final when 5-time winners Bayern Munich play Lyon in the other semi-final tonight. That's actually currently on. Finally, Damian Lillard scored 34 points to lead the 8th-seeded Portland Trailblazers past a stunned top seed Los Angeles Lakers 93-100 in Game 1 of their Western Conference playoff series. Anthony Davis finished with 28 points and 11 boards, while LeBron James, who was making his first playoff appearance for the Los Angeles Lakers, had 23 points, 7 boards and 16 assists for the Lakers. The series continues with Game 2 on Thursday. In select results Tuesday, James Harden scored 37 points to lift the Houston Rockets to a 123-108 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 1 of their Western Conference first-round series. Defending champions Toronto Raptors, who are 1-0 up in their series, are currently on against Denver Nuggets. Much more on the playoff action tomorrow. That does it for sport. Much more tomorrow. Back to Mark.
NTV Sport in association with DSTV.
And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final. Get connected to DSTV to experience every heart-stopping moment.
12 minutes past the hour, so way past my time, but I'm sure it was worth it. Thank you for the positive feedback and the critique, of course, as we continue to make our work better for you. Team coverage, it was an honor to bring you that as part of the team that makes this possible. So many people put in a lot of sweat and work to make this possible. It's not just this bald-headed man. And thank you to David Agondoa for the sign language interpretation. Have yourself a good night and be safe.